The BFG, Journey to Dream Country. After the mad frobscottle party was over, Sophie settled herself again on top of the enormous table. "You is feeling much better now?" asked the big friendly giant. "Much better, thank you," Sophie said. "Whenever I is feeling a bit scrotty," the BFG said, "a few gollops of frobscottle is always making me hopscotchy again." "I must say it's quite an experience," Sophie said. "It's a razztwizzler," said the BFG. "It's gloriumptious." He turned away and strode across the cave and picked up his dream-catching net. "I is galloping off now," he said, "to catch some more whipsy-whiffing dreams for my collection. I is doing this every day without missing. Is you wishing to come with me?" "Not me, thank you very much," said Sophie. "Not with those other giants lurking outside. I is snuggling you very cozy in the pocket of my waistcoat," the BFG said. "Then no one is seeing you." Before Sophie could protest, he had picked her up off the table and popped her into the waistcoat of his pocket. There was plenty of room in there. "Is you wishing for a little hole to peep out from?" he asked her. "There's one here already," she said. She had found a small hole in the pocket, and when she put one eye close to it, she could see out very well indeed. She watched the BFG as he bent down and filled his suitcase with empty glass jars. He closed the lid, picked up the suitcase in one hand, and took the pole with the net on the end in the other hand, and marched towards the entrance of the cave. As soon as he was outside, the BFG set across the great hot yellow wasteland where the blue rocks lay, and the dead trees stood, and where all the other giants were sulking about. Sophie, squatting low on her heels in the pocket of the leather waistcoat, had one eye glued to the little hole. She saw the group of enormous giants about 300 yards ahead. "Hold your breaths," said the BFG, as he whispered down to her. "Cross your figglers. Here we go. We is going right past all these other giants. Is you seeing that whopping great one? The one nearest us?" "I see him," Sophie whispered back, quivering. "That is the horriblest of them all, and the biggest of them all. He is called Flesh Lump-Eating Giant." "I don't want to hear about him," Sophie said. "He is 54 feet high," the BFG said softly as he jogged along. "And he is swallowing human beings like they is sugar lumps, 2 or 3 at a time." "You're making me nervous," Sophie said. "I is nervous myself," the BFG whispered. "I is always getting as jumpsy as a jog hopper when the flesh lump giant is around." "Keep away from him," Sophie pleaded. "Not possible," the BFG answered. "He is galloping easily 2 times as quicksy as me." "Shall we turn back?" Sophie said. "Turning back is worse," the BFG said. If they sees me running away, they is all giving chase and throwing rocks." "They would never eat you, though, would they?" Sophie asked. "Giants is never guzzling other giants," the BFG said. "They is fighting and squarreling a lot with each other, but never guzzling. Human beings is more tasty to them." The giants had already spotted the BFG, and all heads were turned, watching him as he jogged forward. He was aiming to pass well to the right of the group. Through her little peephole, Sophie saw the flesh lump-eating giant moving over to intercept them. He didn't hurry. He just looped over casually to a point where the BFG would have to pass. The others looped after him. Sophie counted 9 of them altogether, and she recognized the blood bottler in the middle of them. They were bored. They had nothing to do until nightfall. There was an air of menace about them as they looped slowly across the plain with long, lolloping strides, heading for the BFG. "Here comes the runty one!" boomed the flesh lump-eater. "Ho, there, runty one! Where is you splatch-winkling away to in such a hefty hurry?" He shot out an enormous arm and grabbed the BFG by the hair. The BFG didn't struggle. He simply stopped and stood quite still and said, "Be so kind as to letting go of my hair, Flesh Lump-Eater." The Flesh Lump-Eater released him and stepped back a pace. The other giants stood around, waiting for the fun to start. then, you little grub squiffler, boomed the flesh lump eater. We is all of us wanting to know where you is galloping off to every day in the daytime. Nobody ought to be out galloping off to anywhere until it was getting dark. The human beings could easily be spotting you and starting a giant hunt, and we is not wanting that to happen, is we? We is not, shouted the other giants. Go back to your cave, runty one. I is not galloping to any human being country, the BFG said. I is going other places. I is thinking, said the flesh lump eater, that you is catching human beings is keeping them as pets. Right you is, cried the bud bottler. Just now I is hearing him chittering away to one of them in his cave. You is welcome to go and search my cave from front frack to bunt, the BFG answered. You can go looking in every crook and nanny. There is no human beans or stringy beans or runner beans or jelly beans or any other beans in there. Sophie crouched still as a mouse inside the BFG's pocket. She hardly dared breathe. She was terrified she might sneeze. The slightest sound or movement would give her away. Through the tiny peephole, she watched the giants clustering around the poor BFG. How revolting were they! All of them had piggy little eyes and enormous mouths. When the flesh lump eater was speaking, she got a glimpse of his tongue. It was jet black, like a slab of black steak. Every one of them was more than twice as tall as the BFG. Suddenly, the flesh lump eater shot out two enormous hands and grabbed the BFG around the waist. He tossed him high in the air and shouted, "Catch him, man-hugger!" The man-hugger caught him. The other giants spread out quickly in a large circle, each giant about 20 yards from his neighbor, preparing for the game they were going to play. Now the man-hugger threw the BFG high and far, shouting, "Catch him, Bone Cruncher!" The Bone Cruncher ran forward and caught the tumbling BFG immediately, swinging him up again. "Catch him, child chewer!" he shouted, and so on it went. The giants were playing ball with the BFG, vying with each other to see who could throw him the highest. Sophie dug her nails into the side of the pocket, trying to prevent herself from tumbling out when she was upside down. She felt as though she were in a barrel going over the Niagara Falls. And then all the time there was the fearful danger that one of the giants would fail to catch BFG, and he would go crashing to the ground. "Catch him, meat dipper! Catch him, gizzard guppler! Catch him, maid masher! Catch him, blood bottler! Catch him, catch him, catch him!" In the end, they got bored with this game. They dumped the poor BFG on the ground. He was dazed and shattered. They gave him a few kicks and shouted, "Run, you little runt, run! Let us be seeing how fast you is galloping." The BFG ran. What else could he do? The giants picked up rocks and hurled them after him. He managed to dodge them. "Ruddy little runt!" He shouted, "Troggy little twit, shrivey little shrimp, mucky little midget, squiggly little squib, grubby little grub." At last, the BFG got clear of them, and in another couple of minutes, the pack of giants was out of sight over the horizon. Sophie popped her head up from the pocket. "I didn't like that," she said. "Phew," said the BFG. "Few and far between. That was a nasty, crouching mood today. They was not. I is sorry you was having such a whirligig time." "No worse than you," Sophie said. "Would they ever really hurt you?" "I is never trusting them," the BFG said. How do they actually catch the humans they eat?" Sophie asked. "They is usually just sticking an arm through the bedroom window and snitching them from their beds," the BFG said. "Like you did to me." "Ah, but I isn't eating you," the BFG said. "How else do they catch them?" Sophie asked. "Sometimes," the BFG said, "they is swimming in from the sea like fishies, only with their heads showing above water. Then out comes a big hairy hand and grabs someone off the beach. Children as well?" "Often chidlers," said the BFG. "Little chidlers is who is building sand castles on the beach. That is who is swimming ones after. Little Chidlers is not so tough to eat as old Grandmama, so says the child-chewing giant. As they talked, the BFG was galloping fast over the land. Sophie was standing right up in his waistcoat pocket now, holding on to the edge with both hands. Her head and shoulders were in the open, and the wind was blowing in her hair. "How else do they catch people?" she asked. "All of them is having their own special ways of catching human beings," the BFG said. "Meat Dripping Giant is preferring to pretend he is a big tree growing in the park. He is standing in the park in the dusky evening, and he is holding the great big branches over his head, and he is waiting until some happy families is coming to have a picnic under the spreading tree. The Meat Dripping Giant is watching them as they lay out their little picnic. But in the end, it is the meat dripper who is having the picnic." "It is too awful!" Sophie cried. "The Gizzard Gulping Giant is a city lover," the BFG went on. "The Gizzard Gulper is lying high up in between roofs of the houses in the big cities. He's lying there snugly as a snuggler and watching the human beings walking on the street below. And when he sees one that looks like it has a whoopsie good flavor, he grabs it. He is simply reaching down and snitching it off the street like a monkey taking a nut. He said it is nice to be able to pick and choose what you is having for supper. He says it is like choosing from a menu.